Ladies and gentlemen, good morning if you're in Europe and good afternoon if you're in Japan. Welcome to our EU Japan online workshop on green hydrogen production. My name is Stéphane Ledu. I'm project manager at the EU Japan Center for Industrial Cooperation in Tokyo, and I have the pleasure to open this event. Our topic today is definitely a hot topic. This week in Paris, the Eiffel Tower was illuminated in green. Morgan, photo, please. Using electricity produced from renewable hydrogen provided by Air Liquide. And the last week in Shizuoka Prefecture in Japan, a hydrogen-powered car developed by Toyota joined a 24-hour endurance race on Fuji Speedway. These two recent symbolic performances illustrate the importance that both Europe and Japan give to hydrogen on their pathway towards carbon neutrality. They also show that hydrogen is no more a confidential topic discussed only between experts. It's now getting out to reach the general public. As you know, hydrogen can be produced from many sources of energy. Today, 95% of the hydrogen in the world is produced from fossil sources. In our workshop today, we focus on the production of green hydrogen from renewable sources. This event is available in English and Japanese. You can select the language by using the interpretation button available on your Zoom application. The workshop will be divided into 3 sessions, as you can see on your screen now. First, the European Commission and the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry of Japan will introduce the public policies for green hydrogen in Europe and Japan. Then 4 companies, Nobian and Enagas from Europe and Asahi Kasei and Toray from Japan will introduce large-scale demonstration projects for green hydrogen production. And finally, we'll explore the potential for further cooperation between Europe and Japan with Japanese public agency NEDO, the European Fuel Cells and Hydrogen Joint Undertaking, Hydrogen Europe, and ECOS Council. This event is held in the context of the EU-Japan Energy Dialogue hosted by the European Commission's Directorate General for Energy and the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry of Japan. And it is the continuation of many years of bilateral and multilateral discussion on hydrogen. A sign of the growing momentum for this topic, you have been more than 1,000 to register for this event. This is a record for us and really something that we didn't expect. Without further ado, I'd like to give the floor to our first speaker, Mr. Tudor Constantinescu, Special Advisor at the Directorate General for Energy at the European Commission. Tudor, please.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much, Stefan. And I would like also on behalf of the Commission to welcome all participants. As you said, it is really a very strong interest, and we are very happy to have all of you here with us. It is a very important period for the energy transition, for the commitment to climate neutrality in Europe and across the globe, and for hydrogen. So I will not spend much time, but I will say just that I'm again very pleased and to share with you some initial remarks and to show you where Europe is in this respect, and how in fact hydrogen has been moving from being the missing link of the energy transition to the core actually of the energy system. So next slide, please. I have to put all this in the context of the Green Deal, and this is very important because this is one of the key projects of the EU announced by our President von der Leyen already in December 2019, with the whole philosophy to accelerate the transition to a low carbon economy, to make Europe the first carbon neutral continent, and actually to not postpone any more investment in the transition to a low carbon economy, and to accelerate so that we get 55% greenhouse gas emission reductions already by 2030, and in this way have capex upfront more in the coming years, and avoid the risk of stranded assets, avoid the risk of lock-in effects, and succeed in the energy transition. It so happens that this investment now will also very much help the economic recovery after the pandemics and the terrible health and sanitary crisis we have all had to pass through. And it's not completely ended, but we see the light here. Next slide, please. If we speak about the 2050, and just to give you a flavor why is this important and why hydrogen is so important, is this, first of all, energy efficiency remains at the core of our priorities and the European policies. And we see that a lot of progress still needs to be made. If you look on the first quarter of this, in particular in transport and residential sector. In industry, we had progress, but this, of course, will have to continue. On the other hand, if we look at the final energy consumption on the right side, you see that due to also moderating the energy demand, the final energy consumption also decrease, and the mix of sources in the energy supply will change. If now electricity represents 23%, by 2050 should be half, but still half will not be electrons, so we'll need molecules, and these molecules needs to be decarbonized. So therefore, it's so important hydrogen in this discussion. On the next two graphs below, you actually see the various analyses on how de facto could evolve the share of renewables in the energy system, and also to look at how natural gas will be gradually in the various scenarios being replaced by hydrogen, by synthetic gases, which in the end are derived also from hydrogen, in particular from renewable hydrogen and biogas. Next slide, please. Hydrogen also be a key in securing sector integration, but also in first instance to secure large-scale storage of renewables. So it's a key priority, and this analysis we have is clear that hydrogen and electrochemical, so chemical and electrochemical storage will de facto become the main solutions for the future. We still have pumped hydro and will continue to have in Europe, as capacities are limited, and therefore gradually chemical and electrochemical batteries and hydrogen will play a growing role. And in some of the scenarios, hydrogen will play the most important role, and will need to move towards hundreds of gigawatts installed capacity also for storage and for securing the electricity grid, while at the same time delivering the decarbonization services to other part of the economy. Next slide, please. And in this context, we came and in support of the implementation of the Green Deal objectives with the concept of energy system integration, a strategy last year followed by the hydrogen strategy, which includes an investment agenda, looks at how to boost the demand and scale up production, to develop the hydrogen infrastructure. We also looked at research and innovation. At the international dimension, the Hydrogen Alliance came at the same time, bringing many actors together to succeed into the implementation of these efforts. I will try to be quick on those. Next slide, please. What is important to bear in mind for all participants, also from those who are not from Europe, we have concrete targets for 2024 of 6 gigawatts of renewable hydrogen production through electrolyzers, 40 gigawatts by 2030, and the strategy acknowledges also potential of other 40 gigawatts in the neighborhood of Europe. So the aim is towards 2050 to really scale up and to decarbonize all sectors, to make a place also for synthetic fuels. And in this journey, we need, first of all, to replace the existing hydrogen production, which 95% currently, we all know, is fossil fuel based without any CCS. But gradually then to have more and more renewable capacities installed, and renewable hydrogen in particular to support heavy duty transport, to support the steel industry becoming green steel, and also to, in a way, launch more and more concepts and more hydrogen valleys across Europe, what we have started in Europe, to become also a norm and support decarbonization everywhere. Next slide, please. But as I said, it's very much an investment agenda. It's very much an investment agenda. You see that to invest 24 to 40 billion euros in electrolyzers needs to be accompanied by, for the 40 gigawatts by 2030, needs to be accompanied by additional 80 to 120 gigawatts of renewables, for which we need to invest 200 to 300 billion euros. So all this, it's very important also to drive economic recovery and modernization of the economy and a more sustainable economy towards 2050. And this is, I think, essential. And the work has to be done also on the end-use sectors and on the infrastructure, being transport or storage of hydrogen as well. So next slide, please. Therefore, we have launched the Alliance, and the Alliance has this objective to define project pipelines of hydrogen in Europe. There are more than 1,000 stakeholders involved. There are 6 round tables covering the whole value chain, from energy production, transport and distribution, mobility, buildings, industrial applications. It's the first project's pipeline will be communicated at the forum on 17-18 of June. We work with all the industries in this, and on the concept of partnership we have developed initially in research innovation in the joint undertaking with Hydrogen Europe, but extended to all, and Jörg will tell you more about this, expanded afterwards to all the sectors and all the actors and contributors to the value chain for hydrogen for the economy. Next slide, please. And to this to materialize, we have a number of actions which I mentioned and key tools. And this is, I think, important because it's a concrete action plan in which for the investment agenda, we have the Alliance, but we also have the revision of the state aid regime. We have the cohesion policy for funding. We have the recovery and resilience fund. For boosting demand and scale up production, we look at the revision of the RED, of the alternative fuels directives, the industrial strategy for Europe. And for this, we have concrete actions related to the terminology, to the support schemes, and the carbon contract for difference for renewables and low carbon hydrogen, or possible end-use targets for renewable hydrogen. We also look at developing the infrastructure and the market, so the planning of hydrogen, transport, storage, and dispatch infrastructures to ensure that we have a liquid hydrogen market, and at the same time preserving the integrity of the internal gas market in Europe. For this, we may need to look at the repurposing of the gas infrastructure for transport in particular, and to see solutions at local and distribution level as well. So a decarbonization gas package is foreseen for the end of the year. Research and innovation remains important. You'll hear more about this during the day. And it's clear that if we succeeded to move from electrolyzers of 10 kilowatts 20 years ago to now 10 megawatts in operation in Köln and 20 megawatts under construction, and recently under Horizon Europe, we successfully had a call for 100 megawatt electrolyzer, which will be announced shortly. The winners for this, it is due to the efforts we put in research and innovation to a very large extent in Europe, materialized through and implemented through the fuel cells and hydrogen joint undertaking, but also now more and more programs complementing each other play a role in this area, in particular under the ETS Innovation Fund, but also, as I said, Horizon Europe directly. The international dimension is key. It's not only about standards and regulations, but also promoting cooperation. Here, next slide, I will refer a bit more on this. It's clear we have a structured dialogue with all the OECD and developing countries, and Japan is the very best example, I could say, in this area. We need research and demonstration to continue, and there's a mission innovation here with the concept of hydrogen valleys and the platform being launched. The international partnership for hydrogen economy on codes and standards, but not only, we are working now and also together with Japan is in multilateral context as well for the methodologies for greenhouse gas emission calculations, because if we want to develop global markets and trade in hydrogen, we need to know what we count and how we measure and quantify renewable and low carbon hydrogen. The Clean Energy Ministerial Hydrogen Initiative is also an area in which, again, we cooperate also with Japan, but not only with Netherlands, with the United States and Canada. And we launch next week is the same, and very happy to announce that we'll launch a Global Ports Coalition on this occasion. So again, the Eastern Partnership and the Southern Partnership and the Green Energy Initiative with Africa are very important, both for investment perspective and for the investment partnership we want to develop with all these regions and countries, but also to supporting them in tapping the potential for renewables and for renewable hydrogen production and use, but also export in global markets and to Europe. So with this as an introduction, I thank you very much, and back to you and to Toshi.
Thank you very much, Tudor, for this inspiring presentation and showing how the hydrogen strategy of Europe is connected to the. Thank you very much, Toshi, for this excellent overview of Japan's hydrogen strategy and how it fits into the new green growth strategy that was announced last year by your minister. Now let's move to our next session. This session will focus on existing large-scale projects for green hydrogen production in Europe and in Japan. It will be moderated by Tudor Constantinescu from the European Commission. Tudor, I hand it over to you.
Thank you very much, Stefan. Thank you also, Toshi, for the presentation and all the interesting developments also in Japan. And now happy to start the first session of our seminar today, which is about the large-scale integrated green hydrogen projects in the EU and Japan. We'll have 4 presentations under this session, and my pleasure is to announce Mr. Joost Sandberg from New Business Manager Nobian to speak about the first step to scale up green hydrogen. So please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Tudor. Good afternoon and good morning. I'm honored to speak today at this European Japan conference. My name is Joost Sandberg. I'm responsible for new business development on green hydrogen and circular chemistry projects within Nobian. Nobian, together with our mother company Nourion, operates 1,000 megawatts of electrolyzers worldwide, amongst others chlor-alkali and also water electrolysis. But today I'm happy to introduce the Jewels project, the joint development of green water electrolysis at large scale, a 20 megawatt project that we're developing in the north of the Netherlands, together with partners and with support of the European Union, Regional Water Funds, and the Netherlands Enterprise Agency. Next slide, please. As Nobian, a chemical company, we are looking at how we can contribute to decarbonization of our economy towards 2050. And I think rightly, as Tudor said, rightly, just before, we're now looking at how to decarbonize our molecules. As a chemical company, that's what we're looking at. So how do we leverage the fast improvements in renewable electricity to fully decarbonize the wider economy also of molecules? Going to the next slide. Now, obviously, green hydrogen, as you all are aware, offers great opportunities for these decarbonization, especially in the hard-to-abate energy and feedstock applications. On the next slide, we have focused really on the electrolysis and the renewable feedstock. As we see the industry, particularly the chemical industry, as the starting point to reach scale, because I think scale is what we all need to bring costs down. The next slide. That's why Nobian, together with partners mentioned on this slide, set up the Jewels project, really to go to set a complete value chain from renewable power up to renewable methanol. And we have all the partners included in the project really to make this first step happen. Next slide. Because with Jewels, we set a very important first step. It is a 20 megawatt water electrolyzer, which is not yet at the scale that we want to be, but it's very important because this is the scale where you move out of containerized solutions and you move into industrial scale factory type solutions. We use state-of-the-art high current density pressurized alkaline technology, really a next step in technology to further bring costs down and enable further scale up. We work together with the Dutch gas transport system operator GasUnie, with chemical company OCI BioMCN, Groningen Seaports, the local harbor authority that will support on infrastructure, McPhee and De Nora, European technology providers, and Inicio, that is supporting on the certification of the hydrogen. So really making sure, together with our partners, that we take the renewable attributes from the renewable power into the product of our customer, OCI BioMCN. We have much support, as mentioned, to not only bring this first project on the ground, but also enable the lessons dissemination from this project to help further scale up. On the next slide, we are located in the chemical park Delfzijl, and it's an important location because while we only start with 20 megawatt, the potential of demand in this chemical park is over 1 gigawatt. So we are able to scale up here. I think a nice add-on to share in this European-Japan cooperation is the mentioning that we operate already a 30 megawatt chlor-alkali production, which is using Asahi Kasei technology. And actually, recently, together with a partner, Asahi Kasei, we introduced the newest generation of membranes into this facility. So I think also a showcase of European-Japanese cooperation we actually implement in Delfzijl. But the potential of just the chemical park Delfzijl is already above 1 gigawatt. Next slide. And that's also what we're trying to leverage in this from Jules. While we get the leverage, while we get the scale of electrolysis, green hydrogen production from the chemical industry, we leverage that scale for multiple applications, both in mobility, household applications such as heating, and transportation, and also use it for energy storage. Now, there's for that we set up the Hydrogen Valley. Actually, the Netherlands, North Netherlands, has been established as the first Hydrogen Valley in Europe. I really recommend that you see this short movie so that you're more introduced into the concept of the Energy Valley, where we work in an integrated way, really to drive the whole setup of a hydrogen ecosystem. And with that, I'd like to thank you for your attention, and I'm open to questions.
Thank you very much, Joost. And I think now we can maybe already move to the next presentation, which is we'll keep the question and answers for the end, but please put your questions through the screen. And now it's my pleasure to hear from Japan and to introduce Mr. Yasude Isobe, Director of the Clean Energy Project with Asahi Kasei. We'll speak about specific efforts towards large-scale green hydrogen production in Japan. So please, Mr. Yasuhide.
Thank you for the introduction. My name is Isobe from Asahi Kasei. Can you hear my voice? Can you all hear my voice?
Yes, we can hear you.
ありがとうございます。So today I want to talk about specific efforts toward large-scale green hydrogen production. I want to focus on alkaline water electrolysis. So let's move on to the next slide. To start off, I'd like to introduce our company, Asahi Kasei. We are a chemical company. We have 3 business sectors. We have over 40,000 employees. And as you can see, this is the state of situation as of 2020. As I said, we have 3 business sectors, which include material, healthcare, and homes. So these are the 3 business sectors that we are operating in. Now this shows the major product that we have in our materials sector. We have chemical materials up to electronics. We have a wide range of products: monomer, polymer, films, fibers, and semiconductors our major products. The right-hand side, we are global #1 chlor-alkali electrolyzer. We are also operating ion exchange membrane business as well. This shows the specific chlor-alkali electrolyzer business. The photo is the electrolyzer set in the European customer. Using this technology in 1975, we started this business focusing on chlor-alkali electrolyzer. Over 40 years, we have experiences, and we are still running this business based on experiences. We do have many customers, and we actually have a track record. Now, this water electrolyzer is really based on this original chlor-alkali electrolyzer. After 2013, we have participated in multiple projects. We selected projects that are conducted between Japan and Germany. 100 kilowatt up to 10 megawatt is the range of sizes of the demonstration project. As you can see, Japan and Germany project. Based on this, we have started our marketing activities based on this project in 2 countries. I want to focus on 10 megawatt project in Fukushima. That's number 5, and also Align CCUS, the German project. So I want to focus on these 2 projects in my presentation. This is one of the largest projects in Fukushima, named Fukushima Hydrogen Energy Research Field, FH2R. On the left, you see the photo. It covers the whole site. Right in the middle, we have 10 megawatt alkali water electrolyzer set up in this building. In the background, you see all the solar panels. This is located in Namie town in Fukushima Prefecture. NEDO has supported us financially, and we were able to run this project thanks to NEDO. Solar cells generate electricity. This electricity is used to achieve 10 megawatt electrolyzer. This is one of the largest in the world as a single unit. We started operation in March 2020. Toshiba Energy System, Tohoku Electric Power, Tohoku Electric Network, and Iwatani are collaborating to actually cover all the flowchart from production, transport to supply. We have water electrolysis system at the very bottom. This is where electricity converted to hydrogen. So this is where we're involved. This is the 10 megawatt alkaline water electrolysis system set up in FH2R project. The biggest supply will be 2,000 normal cubic meters per hour. The cell area is about 3 square meters per cell. The number of cells is 170 cells. We are actually evaluating this equipment. Next, I want to now talk about German project, Align CCUS project. Align CCUS project is research and development project. We are focusing on CCS and CO2 utilization. There are 6 work packages. Asahi Kasei is involved in work package 4 that is indicated on the lower left corner. This is CO2 reuse project. So this is the details of working package 4. From power generation, CO2 will be collected. We use water electrolyzer to synthesize H2. We actually reacted with H2 so that we can use DME, which can be utilized as fuel. This can be used for transportation and further power generation. By doing this, we'll be able to contribute to reducing CO2 emission. Lastly, this is how we plan to contribute to sustainable society. Since we are a chemical company, we would like to convert hydrogen to green chemicals. Water electrolyzer can be used to generate hydrogen, and this hydrogen can be converted to ammonia or methanol, and possibly we can utilize CCU in this process. By converting hydrogen to different materials, we can apply them to fertilizers or specialty chemicals and fuels. It could be synthetic rubber, plastic, fiber, and textiles, coating materials. There are all these different kind of applications possible. With this vision, we want to contribute to sustainable society, sustainable world. With that, I'd like to conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to hear all that, and this shows also already the potential of collaboration between European and Japanese companies. But with this being said, now I would like to move to the next presentation and to move back to Europe and to Enagás in particular. So I'm pleased to introduce Mrs. Maria Jaén, who is a hydrogen coordinator of Enagás, to speak about the Green Highland business case. So Maria, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for the presentations. My name is Maria Jaén, and I am working in the Innovation and Renewable Gases Department at Enagás. And today I would like to present you some of the projects that we are promoting and developing on the green hydrogen field, and especially about the Green Highland project, which is an European project that we are now promoting with 30 partners. So next slide, please. Let me first introduce a little Enagás. We are an European certified gas TSO, transmission system operator. We are the main gas transmission system operator in Spain, and we are also the technical manager of the Spanish gas system. So we have more than 50 years of experience related with the energy infrastructure construction, operation, and maintenance. Next slide, please. Although our main activities focus in Spain, we have 11,000 kilometers of pipeline network. We have 6 LNG terminals. We have 3 underground storage facilities. We are also present in 8 countries. So we are developing energy infrastructure. We are developing natural gas infrastructure also in these countries. And our main activities are focused on the underground storage or LNG and the transmission of these systems and operations. So next slide, please. Why we are interested in the renewable gases? From our point of view, we think that renewable gases, which is mainly hydrogen and biomethane, are key for the energy transition. We think that in the long term, they will help to reach a carbon neutral economy. These renewable gases allow the decarbonization sector and industry that cannot be electrified, and they allow or they provide flexible and dispatchable energy, ensuring security of the supply, facilitating sector coupling, and enabling decarbonization for hard-to-abate sectors. Also, we think that the leveraging existing gas infrastructure are key to achieve this energy transition at the optimum cost. So according with this strong commitment that Enagás has with the decarbonization and the energy transition, we have created a subsidiary company, which is called Enagás Renewable, to foster and to boost these renewable gas projects. So next slide, please. This company, this Enagás Renewable company, is boosting these renewable gases projects, which are mainly focused on the hydrogen and on the biomethane. From the point of view of the hydrogen, we are mainly interested in the green hydrogen production by renewable energy sources. We are talking about photovoltaic, we are talking about wind, our mountain wind, offshore, etc. And in our projects, we usually include several end uses of this green hydrogen on mobility, to produce electricity for the industry as a feedback, as feedstock, and of course for the energy that they use, not only electricity but also heat, and of course for the residential and commercial sector. Related with the biomethane, we are more focused on the upgrading stage. I mean, from the biogas, we participate in projects upgrading this biogas in order to obtain biomethane that we call inject in the natural gas grid and use it as to move this natural gas of the network. So next slide, please. Which kind of projects we develop regarding these renewable gases? I am going to focus on the hydrogen because I think that is the topic today. So we are promoting large-scale projects for the decarbonization of the economic sectors, focus on regions that are involved in the energy transition, and we are retrofitting and upscaling of the natural gas network, blending with natural gas, as well as dedicated hydrogen backbones towards Europe. In that sense, we are promoting the IPCEI green crane that I will go to explain a little in the following slides. Second kind of projects that we develop, it's demonstration project at industrial scale. We are talking about, for example, the project Green Highland that I am going to talk a little bit about it later on. And of course, we are developing R&D projects in order to develop in-house technology deployment related with hydrogen. So for example, we are developing sun-to-high projects, which we are developing technology in order to produce hydrogen directly from the solar energy through photo electrocatalysis, okay? So next slide, please. Related with the first project that I mentioned is the hydrogen IPCEI green crane initiative. IPCEI is the letter for the interest projects of common European important projects. Important project for common European interest. So in that sense, we are developing the green crane initiative. It's not a single project; it's an umbrella which includes several projects. As you see in the picture, they have 3 routes. The idea is to develop south to north green hydrogen routes. So we are working with other partners in other countries in order to connect competitive green hydrogen with demand centers. The idea is to pave the way for the future European cross-border and import routes. We would like to boost local hydrogen demand in regional hubs. And the final goal, of course, is to decarbonize the end-use sectors with this green hydrogen. So next slide, please. Here you have a little more information about this green hydrogen IPCEI green crane initiative. The western route is led by Enagás. There are more than 65 partners involved in this initiative. In the past, it was called Green Spider. Maybe you remember that. And the idea is that in this western route, we are going to invest up to 6 billion euros. The goal is to produce 3.3 gigawatts of renewables, new renewables energies. We are going to produce 1 gigawatt of green hydrogen, and we are going to use this green hydrogen in the different sectors. And of course, in industry, refineries, steel, to produce e-fuels, and the chemical industry. And for the sector coupling, we are going to inject part of this hydrogen into the natural gas grid, and we are also including the uses related with the mobility and transport. So in in Spain, we are developing up to 34, 35 hydrogen projects under this umbrella. And we have connected this project with Netherlands and with Germany through the exportation of this green hydrogen by maritime tours. By maritime routes, sorry. So we expect to export between 12 and 50 tons per day to Netherlands and to Germany. And this green hydrogen will be used by these sectors, CHP, industry, fields, and mobility and transport. And we are collaborating also with another IPCE that it's called Get Hydrogen, which is more focused in the use of green hydrogen in Germany in a refinery. And so the idea is to establish these cross-border collaborations in order to connect the south of Europe with the green hydrogen production, with the north of Europe, where we have located important demand in that sense. So next slide, please. Focusing on Spain, there are the hubs. These are the hubs that have already been announced, although we are working on the development of hydrogen projects in almost all regions in Spain. The hub number 1, which is Mallorca, will be discussed later. And all of them include the production of green hydrogen from renewable energies and the use of this hydrogen in multiple applications, such as industry, such as mobility, such as grid injections, and so on. So here you have 8 examples of the hubs that have been announced. But as I mentioned before, we are really working on several projects in almost every region in Spain. So next slide, please. Just some little information about the R&D project that I mentioned before. Before I will talk a little more about green hydrogen. Sorry, green highland. So this is sun to high project. So the idea is that the solar radiation is converted directly into hydrogen without external electricity. That means that they will have low cost materials and high availability. And they have, of course, we are going to increase the efficiency and to reduce the cost compared with the traditional PV electrolyzer plant. So in the next slide, we will move to the project Green Highland. Green Highland, it's an European project. This is funded by the Fuel Cell and Hydrogen Joint Undertaking. We signed the grant agreement by December of 2020, and it's a 5-year project. The idea is to develop a hydrogen ecosystem in the island of Mallorca, in Balearic Island, and use this green hydrogen to multiple applications. So please, the next slide. How this project starts. In December 2018, CEMEX, which is one of the partners that it's promoting this project and is active in the industrial cement sector, announced the closure of its cement production plant located in Lloseta, Mallorca. So from that moment, work began on defining projects that will allow the reindustrialization of its activity in Mallorca. So this activity, this project, is part of an agreement between the Ministry of Industry, the Spanish Ministry of Industry, Trade and Tourism, the Balearic government, and some companies which are here represented, that is Enagas, Acciona, CEMEX, and Redexis, in order to reindustrialize Lloseta. The project, as I mentioned before, includes the development of new renewable plants, photovoltaic plants, which will produce green hydrogen. And this green hydrogen will be used in several applications, including the fuel supplies to a fleet of fuel cell buses and fuel cell vehicles, the generation of heat and power for commercial and public buildings, the supply of auxiliary power for ferries and for operations. And also we are going to develop and to build a new hydrogen fuel station within the project. So the project also includes the green hydrogen injection into the island gas pipeline network through a guarantee of origin system to decarbonize the gas supply. By mid-2019, the Balearic government approved the declaration of this project as an strategic industrial project. So next slide, please. Why Enagas think that it's interesting to develop this project in Mallorca? Mainly because we are considering three key pillars. One is that Mallorca receive more or less 12 million tourists every year. So we think that is a perfect showcase to show the rest of the world that include hydrogen in the energy transition and decarbonization works. The second pillar is that nowadays the Balearic Island electricity mix is based on fossil fuels, and they have a very strong commitment with the new energies goals for 2040. They expect to have zero emissions energy system by 2040. And the last thing is that there is an existing natural gas network in Mallorca. So applications such as injection of the hydrogen into the natural gas grid could be demonstrated. So for us, it's an excellent example of where we can develop this hydrogen project. So next slide, please. This is the concept of the project. You see on the top of the left of the slide, you can see these PV plants. Then we have the hydrogen production plant, and then we have tube trailers in order to transport this green hydrogen to the different end uses. The hydrogen refuel station at the METI in Mallorca, which is the municipal transport company, and there we are also provide hydrogen for the fuel cell electric vehicles. Then we have the commercial fuel cells used at hotels. Below you have this hydrogen injection into the natural gas grid. Then you can see the use of this hydrogen into a maritime terminal or a ferry terminal in the port of Palma. And then on the left, you can see the use of this another fuel cell, of this hydrogen in another fuel cell in a municipal building in Lloseta. So next slide, please. We are going to produce at least 300 tons per year, and the idea is to ramp up to 1,000 tons per year. This is the locations of the different sites. The only goal for mine in that slide is to show that the sites are located in different parts of the island. So it's very important, the logistic and transport strategy that we are going to develop here. So at the top on red, you have the Lloseta Green Hydrogen Plant. Then you have the blue, the Lloseta Municipal Building. At the bottom in yellow or orange, you have the injection point for the hydrogen into the natural gas grid. Then in green, you have the hotel. In orange, you have the EMT bus depot. And in purple, you have the port of Palma. And then it's also included the development of a hydrogen pipeline within the project. Next slide, please. Here's just an example about the location within the CEMEX land. In yellow, you can see the plant of the hydrogen production, and in blue, you will see on the left is PV Lloseta plant, and on the right it will be PV Petra. We are going to develop two PV plants for to obtain this green electricity for the hydrogen production. So next slide, please. What are the key figures of the project? By the end of the project, we hope to avoid more than 21,000 tons per year of emissions. We are going to develop new direct and indirect employment ecosystem associated to hydrogen. We are going to develop a sustainable large-scale island-based hydrogen hub. This is very important for us. We are not looking for small projects to prove the concept, because we think that the concept is justified and proved. So we would like to develop sustainable and scalable hydrogen ecosystems in Spain, through Europe, and throughout the world. Inside the project, we are going also to develop a long-term roadmap to lay the path for the local and regional-based economy towards 2050. There are 5 partners who will help us to replicate the replicability of this ecosystem in their own territories. And the total investment is about 50 million euros. So next slide, please. This is the partners that are participating in the project. The whole hydrogen value chain is covered, and we have companies from the private and the public sector and from many different sectors. And we have universities, we have private companies, we have energy companies, we have transport companies, we have end users. So from our point of view, it's a very competitive consortia, and we have a lot of partners with large experience in development of hydrogen infrastructures. And one important thing for us is that we would like, as I mentioned before, to replicate this project in other islands. So for example, if you can see in the slide, the last line and some of the logos which is in the line before, we are talking about companies or islands that we are going to replicate this ecosystem in their own territories. We have from the 30 partners, they are from 11 countries, 9 European countries, plus Chile and plus Morocco. So next slide, I think that is the last one, the next, okay. And just, I would like to highlight that it's very important in this kind of project to have the regional and the local, and of course the national support. So we have the support from the Spanish government to develop this project, for the Balearic government, of course, for the fuel cell, hydrogen and United Technion, as I mentioned before. And additionally, we have almost 20 letters of support of other companies and 9 observers that look very carefully about how they can implement this kind of ecosystem in their own territories. So next slide, please. I think that's all from my side. Thank you very much for your attention, and I will be more than happy to attend any comment or any question you will like to ask. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. I cannot start my video somehow, but okay. Thank you very much. Maybe because we are running out of a bit out of time, maybe just to take in this case a very quick question to you, if there are any need for desalinization on the Highland project.
Yes, in the CEMEX land, we have 2 wheels that we can use for this project. So the idea is to use the water that the CEMEX used before to do that. But there are some other projects that we are developing, for example, the Canary Island, that we are considering this desalinization of the water. You know that in Ireland, the water is a top topic. So we would like to optimize the use of this water. So in the case of Mallorca, we are going to use the same water, more or less the same water that even we are going to use, I mean, low water, and we're going to use few water of one CEMEX used before to produce this hydrogen. And in other projects, like for example, the Canary Island, it is included the desalinization of the water.
Okay.
We are not going to use consume water, human consumed water to produce hydrogen.
Thank you very much. Reassuring, and very happy to see this project taking off. Now, next presentation we have, we move back to Japan. Please also, if you have questions, don't forget to raise them. I'm pleased now to introduce Mr. Daisuke Itsuhara. He's a chair researcher at Toray, and he will speak about the Toray's effort to realize a hydrogen society. So please, Mr. Daisuke, the floor is yours.
Good morning and good afternoon. My voice is okay?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Daisuke Izuhara from Toray Industry. Thank you for having this opportunity. Today, I'd like to talk about Toray's initiative for the realization of a hydrogen society. Next, please. In 2018, Toray Group announced that the Toray Group Sustainability Vision, declaring its long-term determination to provide innovative technology and advanced materials that help global issues, including the climate change. In the vision, Toray Group declared its aim of the net zero world, where greenhouse gas emissions are completely offset by absorption, effectively cutting greenhouse gas emissions to zero by 2050. Next, please. Here is an overview of Toray initiative for the realization of a hydrogen society. Blue parts shows Torei's products and developing products. Torei Group has been developing various kinds of the key material for all stages of hydrogen production, transportation, storage, and use, such as polymer electrolyte membrane, carbon paper, gas diffusion layer, CCM and MEA, and carbon fiber for the tank, and so on. As you can see in the bottom side, this is a kind of recent topics on the fuel cell materials. Torei Group started full operation at the Ehime plants for carbon paper and GDL, and started production for the hydrocarbon polymer electrolyte membrane in the right-hand side. And we also decided to establish the second factory at our German subsidiary company, Greenality. I think Torei Group would be the only one company having all the MEA material in the world. So today, I would like to focus on the electrolyzer applications. Next, please. Here is our German subsidiary company, Greenality's initiative in the power to gas megawatt class PEM electrolyzer demonstration project in EU. Torei acquired Greenality, a former Solvipor, in 2015, who is based in the Hanau-Aldenau near Frankfurt, Germany. Torei Group, Greenality has been leading the demonstration project of the world's most compact megawatt class PEM electrolyzer stack since 2015 in Hamburg, Leitbruck, based on the Greenality's CCM technologies. So today, Torei Group has promoted the initiative toward the realization of hydrogen society from early on for the proceeding EU market as for the electrolyzer and green hydrogen production. Next, please. Here is the principle of PEM electrochemical devices, including the electrolyzer, hydrogen compressor, and fuel cell. As you may know, all devices has almost the same self configuration, including the PEM and catalyst and GDL. Membrane and MEA is the common key material for fuel cell, compressor, and electrolyzer. And next, please. This slide shows the Japan's green growth strategy through achieving carbon neutrality in 2050, published by METI. As we discussed in the Japan Hydrogen Fuel Cell Strategy Council, in order to reduce CO2 emissions, not only renewable equalization and expansion, but also green hydrogen utilization in non-electricity, so-called sector coupling would be the essential importance. And so, therefore, we consider that green hydrogen production by electrolyzer is a kind of the core technology toward the carbon neutrality. This is the NEDO project framework, development and demonstration of P2G system technology aiming to build a CO2-free hydrogen society since 2016. After Torei sold project on the electrolyzer R&D, Torei has been leading the development and demonstration of PEM electrolyzer and P2G system in the collaboration with Yamanashi Prefecture and TEPCO, Tokyo Electric Power Company, in Japan as well. Next, please. This is the overview of Yamanashi NEDO P2G project. We are promoting the consistent demonstration projects from green hydrogen production to utilization in real hydrogen society of Yamanashi Prefecture, including the hydrogen boiler for the semiconductor factory, as well as a stationary PFG for the supermarket. In this project, Torei has been leading the development and demonstration of Japan's first megawatt class PEM electrolyzer in the collaboration with Hitachi Zosen. Next, please. This is the development status of 10 kilowatt Hitachi Zosen prototype electrolyzer stack, which was installed in the Torei Shiga plants. As you can see here, newly developed Torei MEA 1, as Blue Line successfully achieved net fiscal year 2050 final target, as shown in the green line, blue line, green line, with keeping lower gas crossover than PSA reference. In comparison with the reference PSA MEA as red line, Toray MEA 19.1 achieved twice higher current density at the same voltage, which will be able to contribute to higher efficiency system and or cost reduction of stack system and green hydrogen. Next, please. This is the field demonstration status of a large area prototype electrolyzer stack in Komekurayama, Yamanashi Prefecture. Based on the Toray membrane MEA technology in the previous slide, Toray has been promoting the development and demonstration of large area prototype PEM electrolyzer stack in cooperation with the Hitachi Zosen. Next, please. This is the status of Yamanashi Komekurayama P2G demonstration site. Left-hand side is kind of overview. Right-hand side is 1.5 megawatt PEM electrolyzer. Left-hand bottom side is hydrogen cradle for supermarket and hydrogen trailer for semiconductor factory. In this project, again, Toray has been promoting the demonstration of Japan's first 1.5 megawatt, max 2.3 megawatt class of PEM electrolyzer in cooperation with Hitachi Zosen and Yamanashi Prefecture. We already started the continuous operation of this prototype electrolyzer from April. Have a plan to supply hydrogen from early June. So next, please. So finally, toward the carbon neutrality in 2050, the production cost of green hydrogen depends on the site-specific drivers, especially renewable energy price and operation time. Toray Group is going to promote the overseas projects in the collaboration with the domestic and international partners for the proceeding overseas markets, including EU, North Africa, or Middle East, or Australia, and so on. So toward the realization of hydrogen society, we Toray would like to contribute to international cooperation program in the field of hydrogen and fuel cells. So next, please. So finally, I'd like to thank METI and NEDO for all project and the financial supports. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Maybe there is a question for you if you plan to utilize steam electrolysis. Yeah. I don't know if you hear me. It's okay. Did you hear me?
Yes, yes.
So it was a question for you if you utilize steam electrolysis.
PEM electrolyzer.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I think with this, we are a bit running out of time, but this panel was, I think, very interesting and a lot of information, very, very relevant. I should point that indeed we are the hydrogen strategy in Europe, at least, is very clearly focused on renewable hydrogen. So the carbon footprint is important. So the taxonomy will play an important role in steering, and the levels agreed there will play a very important role in steering investments, and public support eventually in hydrogen and renewable hydrogen projects. So this alliance will also pay due attention to the project pipelines which will support the hydrogen strategy implementation. There are already examples, good examples, cooperation with Japan. I see there are some questions on this, and maybe Toshi is still there. He could, for example, tell a bit more about the role of renewables and how they see renewables, and also the strengthening of electricity grid in Japan to integrate more renewables, but also to produce hydrogen, and at the same time, how it's seeing the balance renewable blue hydrogen, if you can say 2 more words. And this would be for me maybe also the way to pass the floor to him for the next panel, which is about concrete projects, including EU, Japan concrete projects. And this is the aim of this first seminar in the round we plan on hydrogen projects between EU and Japan. So Toshi, may I go back to you, please?
Yes, thank you very much, Tudor. And now I'd like to open the next session to discuss the possible cooperation between European Union and Japan in hydrogen space. There's a good information sharing session both from Japan and European Union with regards to the ongoing projects to tap the potential of renewable hydrogen. And to capitalize on that session, now we would like to move on to this session. And now in this session we have 4 speakers. Mr. Eiji Ohara from New Energy and Industrial Technology Development Organization, which is a financing arm of research and development projects under the umbrella of METI, and also important project managing organization of a variety of projects, including hydrogen projects. And also we have Mr. Bart Bivik, the Executive Director of FCHGU. Also we have Mr. Yorgo Chatzimarkakis, Secretary General of Hydrogen Europe. And also as last speaker, we have Mrs. Joanna Sealing, Senior Project Manager from ECOS Consult. I'd like to, taking this opportunity, I'd like to thank all of the speakers joining this session. The purpose of this session is to discuss the possible cooperation in European Union and in Japan based on the good track record shown, presented by the previous sessions. So I'd like to turn the floor to Mr. Eiji Ohara on the first presentation. So Mr. Ohara, floor is yours.
Thank you, President. And very good afternoon, and good morning, everybody in Europe. And I'm very happy to be here to discuss about the future cooperation between EU and Japan. Today, I'll bring some information about our current methods activity on the hydrogen fuel cell and the future possibility of the cooperation between EU and Japan. So next, please. So let me start with the current policy. As Shiraiya mentioned, that Japan developed a new policy for the energy and environment for carbon neutrality by 2050. To address the new policy, Japan or METI developed a new strategy, namely green growth strategy through achieving carbon neutrality. And this strategy, it's not only to environment to energy policy, but also the industry policy as an aim to develop the positive cycle between economic growth and environmental protection. And this strategy also set to 14 growth sectors to be promoted, to be accelerated. And the hydrogen, you may see that the hydrogen is one of the 14 growth sectors, and hydrogen application, the fuel cell, and appear the other 2 sectors like transport, mobility and battery, and maritime, etc., etc. Yeah, the hydrogen is not only solution for carbon neutrality, but play a very important role. So next, please. Okay, next I will talk about current activity and hydrogen fuel cell. And we conducted several projects from the hydrogen production, transportation, storage, and utilization, basic research, applied research, demonstration, etc. Today I will bring some information about our direction. Our first step is promoting the fuel cell application. It's a very much key device for hydrogen utilization. And we are now conducting a two type of fuel cell. The one is PFC, or proton exchange membrane fuel cell, mainly focusing on the mobility. Now, with the discussion of the Japanese automobile company, Toyota and Honda, we decided it's a very challenging target for the future, and 2030 or 2040. We invited to industry or academia to address this challenging target. Also need to develop a new application and a ship and a heavy duty, a middle duty vehicle and a drone, and also expand the utilization of the fuel cell. And a solid oxide fuel cell, we're mainly focusing on the stationary uses. And our big challenge is improving the efficiency over this 65%, and also the durability of 130,000 hours or 15 years. Next, please. Yes, to disseminate the fuel cell vehicle, the hydrogen filling station is a key. Our current challenge is how to reduce the cost of the hydrogen filling station, or OPEX and CAPEX. We try to make it half in 5 years, including addressing the regulatory reform or developing the low-cost equipment. Our next challenge is preparing the heavy-duty vehicle. I mentioned that our heavy-duty vehicle is a key device for the mobility, and yes, we also we now conducting the large-scale fuel cell, but also we recognize that importance of the market environment. Market environment meaning the regulation and code and standards. We need to develop the new refilling protocol for heavy-duty vehicle. There's a high amount and a high-speed hydrogen refilling system. Next, please. Our next step is developing the hydrogen demand or integrated with other energy system. As one is developing the large-scale hydrogen supply chain and our large-scale hydrogen application. Our first trial is developing the hydrogen gas turbine system, mainly focusing on developing the hydrogen combustor or control combustion for the low NOx emission or preventing the backfires. We also developing the other equipment like a hydrogen boiler and a hydrogen engine is providing the low carbon to heat powers. Also, Japan somehow need to import hydrogen from the outside. So how to concentrate our hydrogen carrier is very important. We are now conducting two type carrier. One is liquefied hydrogen. The other one is organic chemical hydrate, as Shirai-san mentioned. It's a party gas. That's a key technology for developing low carbon energy system or sector or coupling. The party gas is a kind of the systems to integrate the system. So energy management and the system optimization, the response performance is about one of the challenges. Of course, we need to improve the electrolysis technologies. Our challenge is scaling up and improving the durability. Durability means reducing the cost for the OPEX. Okay, next please. And I will bring some snapshot from our project. And this slide shows our first hydrogen gas turbine project developed several years ago. We are now running over the 3 years. And we already successed the 100% hydrogen operation. Our next challenge is improving the efficiency of the gas turbines. The next, please. As I mentioned that we are conducting the two types of the hydrogen carrier. The one is liquefied hydrogen. And we already developed the world small but world first hydrogen tanker at your left photo shows. And we also developing a hydrogen, liquefied hydrogen handling equipment at the port, like a loading, unloading system and large scale hydrogen storage. The demonstration will be started in this year. Next, please. And as my colleague from the Asahi Kasei or Toray explained that we're also conducting the megawatt scale power to gas project in Japan. Both of the two demonstration project had already started. The total system already installed. We are now conducting the demonstration project. The challenge is to not only developing the large-scale water electrolysis, but also developing the total energy management system. We need to develop the kind of experiences through the this demonstration project. At the real site, the experience is very much important for the next development. Next slide, please. Okay, we also conducted a similar feasibility study for developing the hydrogen utilization model. This slide showed one of the feasibility studies at the port, electrification or promoting the decarbonization at port, a collaboration with Los Angeles Port. Well, there are many the facility running in a diesel engine, which we try to find this possibility to transition from the diesel energy equipment to the fuel cell or the hydrogen fuel cell equipment. Also, we need to find the possibility to provide a green hydrogen from the biomass or the electricity. Well, next, please. Finally, I'd like to mention about the potential for the cooperation. Just the idea, not decided yet. There's so many two items to be collaborated. One is that the hydrogen production mainly focus on the water electrolysis. So, for example, the fundamental research for kind of evaluation of the performance of the water electrolysis to research the reaction mechanism on the inside of the water electrolysis. It's for working for promoting to improving the technology. For next generation water electrolysis, it is the potential of alkali exchange membrane on the solid side receipt. And the hydrogen utilization, as I mentioned, the refilling port called heavy duty vehicle is very much important for not only Japan, but also EU and the United States. It's a good chance to be collaborated. So, and we also to analysis, auto modeling, it's very much also important. We now conducting the several feasibility study with hydrogen utilization modeling. They are like same as hydrogen barley. We have the chance to share our experiences. Okay, next, please. Okay, and I'd like to close my presentation, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Ohira-san. And also, I'd like to thank on the last slide showing your initial thoughts on the possible areas for cooperation. Thank you very much. So I'd like to move on to the next speakers. Mr. Bart Vivek, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Shirai-san. Konnichiwa, minasan, and good morning, Europe. Thanks for having me. Can you bring up my slides, please? And I can explain a little bit what we are doing in Europe. So I will talk a bit about the green hydrogen production. You saw already a couple of projects in the previous sessions, and also on international cooperation between Japan and EU. Next slide, please. So first of all, who are we? We are the public-private partnership. We have 3 partners. We have Hydrogen Europe, which is an industry grouping, has more than 270 members already. And you will hear after my presentation also more about what Hydrogen Europe is doing. But also there's another association, Hydrogen Europe Research, which is a research grouping, 83 members, and in the middle, the European Commission. This is our 3rd partner, very important partner, because he's putting, or they are giving us the financial means to support all those projects. So far, we have supported 285 projects for 1 billion euro. But since this is a public-private one, you also have to, of course, the private side equally put also more than 1 billion euro. Next slide, please. So on electrolysis projects, we started back in 2011 with the project Don Quixote in Belgium. And as you can see, that was about 150 kilowatt projects at that time. And over time, we have gradually pushed the envelope, as you can see, moving to the megawatt scale, then 2.5, 3.4, 6, 10, 20, 60 megawatt in the Hydrogen Valley in the Northern Netherlands, and finally the 100 megawatt, the European Green Deal call, which has received 16 proposals for 100 megawatt in Europe. And as Tudor said this morning, we will hear soon who are the winners. But for me, what was important is that if you receive 16 proposals, it means that there is business cases and that it can be done. And that is a very important message. Of course, we are not there yet. We will have to go to several hundred megawatts by 2025 and even to a gigawatt scale by 2030. In this slide, I wanted to mention as well that once we reach the 6 megawatt electrolyzers, then we saw really the big companies coming in. For example, the project H2 Future or the Refine project in Germany with 10 megawatt and the Jewels project. So, and that was important that also the big companies are embarking to help decarbonizing their facilities using hydrogen. Next slide, please. So just as I said, the H2 Future project, a bit details. This is about greening the steel industry. So the hydrogen is, of course, green hydrogen. It's produced from hydropower in Austria. There's a lot of hydropower available in Austria. And basically, it is used to green the steel. Important is that Verbund, which is the electricity company of Austria, is really involved in this project. And so the electrolyzer itself, which is a PEM, atmospheric electrolyzer, is a 6 megawatt provided by Siemens. It's installed in Voestalpine, which is one of the biggest steel makers in Europe. It's in Linz in Austria. The hydrogen is really injected in the coke oven gas, and they want basically to do direct iron ore reduction through hydrogen in the long term. So we have, the total project was around 18 million euro, and we supported with 12 million euro. Next slide, and it's working, it's completely operational already. The next project is with Shell, is the Refine project. It's really to help to green the refining industry. Here we will produce hydrogen from renewables, and instead of now that they are using is the SMR hydrogen technology, which is, of course, as you know very well, gray hydrogen. This is a 10 megawatt PEM electrolyzer by ITM, UK company, installed in the Shell refinery in, well, Köln area in Germany. It's quite advanced because they get to 3 amperes per square centimeter, and it's operated on a bit increased pressure, 30 bar. The hydrogen will be used to also inject it into a existing pipeline, and also to do the grid and load balancing services for the electricity grid over there. So it will also be used for refueling hydrogen refueling stations or hydrogen cars then, but also in their own processes to desulfurization of their fuels. Basically, maybe 10 megawatts sounds big, but actually it's very, very small because it will only replace 1% of the 100 tons that they need annually. So 100,000 tons that they need annually. So basically, if we really want to decarbonize this complete plant, they need to build 1 gigawatt of electrolyzers over there. Next slide, please. So it was already touched upon is the hydrogen valleys, and this is where we actually cooperate also with Japan. And so in the mission innovation under the Clean Hydrogen Challenge, so you can see that we work there with a lot of countries worldwide. And the hydrogen valleys, as it was already mentioned, we have 3 hydrogen valleys already in Europe. We have the one in Northern Netherlands, which was one of the first ones. Then we have the hydrogen island, which was also presented, of Mallorca, which we also basically call a hydrogen valley, because it's all, a hydrogen valley is all about the sectoral integration. And here you can see for Japan that basically the Fukushima project is also considered as one of the hydrogen valleys. What is the purpose of this mission innovation is basically to share globally all our experiences in building up such a hydrogen valley in order that all together worldwide we can realize faster this clean energy transition with using hydrogen. If you want to know more, please go to this website, it's there. And I can tell you now we are discussing our Mission Innovation 2, which will be presented next week, but definitely hydrogen valleys will be considered as one important item in the next Mission Innovation. Next slide, please. Another very important activity in Europe and where we also work together with Japan is the developing of the EU-wide guarantees of origin or the certification of a green hydrogen. We have the project Certify, which started in 2014. Now we are already in the third phase, the Certify 3 phase, and Certify 2 in the second phase. We actually made 4 pilot plants. You can see one in France, Germany, Belgium, and the Netherlands. We created already 70,000 guarantees of origin. So basically showing that the hydrogen is green. And what we are doing now is in the third phase of Certify is to really roll out this platform across Europe, because by the end of the year, each European member states needs to have this platform available. We do that together with the Association of the Issuing Bodies in Europe. So this association really shows the certificates. And then where we work together in Japan is in the IPHC task force on the hydrogen production analysis methodology. It's very important that we all agree worldwide on every hydrogen production method, that we agree on the CO2 footprint. So that means that green hydrogen in Japan is also the green hydrogen in Europe, because this is so important to unlock future cross-border trading. Next slide, please. Another area where we work already together with Japan is in these 2 projects of PGM-free catalysts. This is very low TRL. I mean, we would like to remove the platinum and replace it with something else. And for that, for example, here, we work together with the Kyushu University in the project Crescendo, but also in the project Pegasus, it's with the Tokyo Institute of Technology. So it's really basic research, but also you can see that it's not only with Japan, but also with US. So it's really a worldwide cooperation, because materials are scarce and we need to work on that together. Another one is on the project Pride, which is on the hydrogen refueling protocols. There we have Toyota participating in, because here again, what we want to achieve is that worldwide we use the same hydrogen refueling protocol, the same way we do today with cars. And now we want to establish that for trucks. And I have to say it's going very fine, it's going well. Also, the US is also participating in this one. Next slide. Finally, I also will make, like Ohira-san did, also a few ideas, or share a few ideas on possible cooperation areas. The first one is on the next generation HRS. We need to increase the reliability, the protocols that we do for refueling, and it's not only about trucks, but for the future also for shipping, for aviation. So a lot of work is there to be done. And also see how we can, for example, make regulations for multiple use of a station. So we have already, together with Japan and the US, annual workshop on the hydrogen refueling station since 2014. And of course, we will continue that and share the experiences that we have, but also maybe we can explore a joint research project. The other one is on the certification of hydrogen, and maybe green, blue, all these colors that we have worldwide on hydrogen. So really to work on the CO2 footprint calculation methodology. We will continue to work with Japan and the IPHE, but also why not explore potential ideas for real import. Maybe Japan will import from Australia, we will import from other parts of the world, but maybe we can really start the certification of those imports using a common methodology. The next idea is on hydrogen in ports. As Tudor already mentioned this morning, we will launch very soon, maybe next week, the Global Ports Hydrogen Coalition under the SEM initiative. And of course, it would be great to have also some Japanese ports in that initiative. And the idea here is together with all the ports worldwide to identify the potential of hydrogen in ports, but also what are the roadblocks, to identify the roadblocks for trade and and offers potential solutions to policymakers. So here again, I said, let's join the SEM for Japan ports and identify potential synergy projects. On materials, let's keep working on materials. One is on this PGM-free catalyst that we already started, but also there are other scarce materials, for example, iridium replacements as well. So there are a lot of work to be done. It's low TRL, it's not a competitive area, so it could be good. Finally is the education and awareness. So we can share good practice, student exchange programs on hydrogen between the two continents, share education materials. So we're already working in IPHC on that, but maybe we can even enhance it and do something jointly. So that's my presentation. You can go to the next slide. You can see all my coordinates here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Burt. And I understand that there's a steady progress to scale up the green hydrogen production capacity. And I'm personally looking forward to seeing which project will be awarded to achieve 100 megawatts green hydrogen production capacity in near future. And also, I very much appreciate your positive proposal on the possible areas for cooperation, including next generation hydrogen refueling protocol, which was also mentioned by Mr. Ohira in his presentation. Also, hydrogen certification and use of hydrogen in ports area, together with a possible or basic research on the non-PGM catalyst. Very much interesting. Thank you very much. So I'd like to turn the floor to the next presenter, Mr. Yorgo Chachmankakis, Secretary General of Hydrogen Europe. So Mr. Yorgo, floor is yours.
Many thanks. Thanks for inviting Hydrogen Europe here. As Bart already mentioned, Hydrogen Europe is the industry association, also part of the FCHU that Bart just presented. And we have among the 270 members, 11 from Japan, from Asia. That's the highest number, and we are of course proud of them. Next slide, please. I would like to go directly to the collaboration in the deployment of complex industrial projects and describe concrete projects that are happening between European companies and Japanese in Europe. I'm going to present several examples of the planned hydrogen collaborations on an industrial scale. So let me start with Hamburg in Germany. There we have a large industrial port areas present, unique opportunity for early hydrogen deployments. It's the third biggest port in Europe, and it plays quite a role in developing this hydrogen strategy. Then following examples of other ports, Hamburg Hydrogen Network was formed to contribute to significant emissions reductions with projects linking hydrogen production, distribution, and utilization across applications. Also, Hamburg Green Hydrogen Hub is a 100 megawatt electrolysis facility on the site of a decommissioned coal-fired power plant. It's supported by Mitsubishi Heavy Industries. It will be the anchor project for further development of additional projects in the Hamburg Hydrogen Network. Let me now pass to Ghent, which is in Belgium, also a port area, but this time in Belgium, it's the North CCU hub in Ghent with North Sea methanol projects. We have heard in previous presentations that this is an important issue. It is the first large-scale project of the hub. The project focuses on production of methanol from green hydrogen and CO2 captured from industrial sources. And Mitsubishi Power is a partner in this endeavor, responsible for the technical delivery of the electrical requirements of the project. Let me pass to Finland. Another example of an industrial project is the industrial scale green hydrogen production plant in Finland. It's a Finnish company, P2X Solutions, and it's a joint venture between ABB and Hitachi. Hitachi ABB Power Grids are developing a 20 megawatt electrolyzer for industrial use. The project has only been recently announced and more details have yet to be published. Let me come to a project in Austria, Donawitz. So here Mitsubishi Heavy Industries partnered with voestalpine, the Austrian steel producer. This is a project that has been mentioned by Bart already, to pilot new technology developed by Primetal's subsidiary of, which is a Japanese company, subsidiary of Mitsubishi Heavy Industries. It's a pilot project for steel decarbonization through the world's first direct reduction process for iron ore, which concentrates from ore beneficiation, not requiring any pre-processing like sintering or pelletizing. So it's very innovative on world class. The direct reduction plant comes in a modular design with a rated capacity of 250,000 tons per year. Let me go to the next slide, please. On this slide, you see hydrogen and fuel cell deployments in Europe by Japanese companies. So I'm going to present several examples of both operational and planned hydrogen and fuel cell deployments by Japanese companies in Europe. So we have an example in Paris, in France. One of the most publicized is the fleet of hydrogen taxis operating in Paris, the capital of France, since 2015. The operator is called Hype and operates around 110 fuel cell vehicles in Paris. Its owner is HiSet Co., an asset management company which plans to replace 600 diesel taxis with fuel cell vehicles in the near future, while increasing the number of hydrogen refueling stations that they operate until 2024 in Paris. The project has been partially supported by the FCHU that Bart represents, who just spoke. Let me turn to the Netherlands and The Hague. WMO Transport, provider of mobility services for the elderly who are unable to use public transport, operates 40 fuel cell vehicles used by 6,800 customers annually. These fuel cell vehicles enjoy an advantage over battery since the fleet has to be available 24/7 and their short fueling times allow to do so. I turn to Oslo, which is in Norway, capital of Norway. Here, Cabin Line, the largest taxi operator in the Nordics, together with Everfuel, provider of green hydrogen, and Toyota is planning to replace a part of its fleet in Oslo with initial deployment of 100 fuel cell vehicles by the end of 2022. Both Cabin Line and Everfuel will provide incentives to taxi drivers to switch to fuel cell cars. Then we turn to the Netherlands, the northwestern part, the Hydrogen Valley, as you have seen in the previous presentation. Duval is an integrated project whose objective is to start the development of green hydrogen economy in the northwest of the Netherlands. The first set of initiatives, titled From Wind to Wheel, proposes an integrated electrolysis and wind turbine production from 2 megawatt plant, an exchangeable storage and distribution system, and 5 public filling stations, the first one in the city of Alkmaar. Then let me turn, in addition to the 4 already mentioned projects, there are other notable deployments involving Japanese companies, mostly in the mobility space. We have different projects here, like Clever Shuttle, like Zephyr, but also Caetano and Toyota were successfully cooperating. Caetano, a European subsidiary, if you wish, from Toyota. Let me now turn to slide number 4, where we talk about hydrogen and fuel cell research in Europe by Japanese companies. That's not industrial deployment, but that's research. I run through this quite quickly, so you just see what is happening. There's the HydroHub Research Center in the Netherlands, where we have has been presented by Nurion already. Then Corvus, Toyota is heavily involved there in Corvus. First project, it's Yokogawa, which is the Japanese partner. In the Metro Hive project for measurement challenges, we also see Toyota Motors as a partner. And finally, Maersk McKinley Moller Center for Zero Carbon Shipping. There we have Mitsubishi and Mitsui being partners in that project. Let me turn to slide number 5. This is industry forming alliances across the hydrogen sector. I'm going to list some public alliances currently in place between Japanese and European companies for the development of the hydrogen market. So we have one cooperation between Mitsui and Co and Hexagon. That's a Japanese general trading company operating across various business segments and active in clean energy, mobility. Plus, Hexagon is a Swedish group leader in the development of clean fuel solutions. This strategic alliance started in 2016, has been extended for 10 years. Mitsui and Co offers Hexagon extensive knowledge and geographic reach, facilitating its entry in the mobility sector. Then I mentioned already Toyota and Caetano Bus. So this is Toyota and the Portuguese bus engineering company. The joint venture started in 2018. Finlock, a personal car financial service company, joined in 2020. Caetano Bus offers Toyota its technical capabilities and market understanding, and Toyota supplies its fuel cell technology. Then we have the cooperation between Nissan and Ceres Power. So Nissan is in automotive and Ceres Power is the UK power provider. They aim to develop an SOFC technology for vehicle applications, for electronic vehicle applications. This R&D alliance began in 2016, was extended in 2018, and the stack, the SOFC stack, is based on Ceres's steel cell technology, which is very cost efficient and scalable. Then one big cooperation is between Toyota and BMW, so two automotives and quite well known all over the globe. It's a technology partnership for the development of fuel cell drive systems. The partnership started already in 2013 and will continue beyond 2025. The iHydrogen Next technology will enter, that will be developed in the market in 2022. In terms of the benefits and challenges resulting from entering joint ventures and other partnerships types between Japanese and European companies, I would mention the following very shortly. There are market-related benefits, regardless of whether it's a Japanese company or not, in terms of market access, increased production, risk and cost sharing, technology development, lessons learned, of course, from the different markets. Also, the challenges for Japanese companies entering the European hydrogen sector. Well, there's a smaller footprint in the European market. You can be cost effectively addressed by alliances and partnerships. A second point is that national European manufacturing requirements for some projects and the issue of importing specific parts is easier. There are various national European requirements when requesting funding for both research and deployment projects, and here a cooperation can help. And final point, potentially there are fewer barriers to entry for North American and Chinese markets compared to the European markets. If you go to the next slide, please. I would like to also show what we are planning on a global scale. Next slide, please. Yeah. So what the Europeans are, go on back, sorry. What the Europeans plan is to scale up markets for big volumes of hydrogen. And basically what we are planning here is to have an auctioning system. We talked a lot about steel, and in steel production, if you replace coal, you need big volumes of hydrogen. And let's say First Alpine, this Austrian company that has been mentioned here with some Japanese partners, let's say they need from 25 to 35 megatons of clean hydrogen, and an auction would then go globally for the cheapest bid. Could be in the European case in Northern Africa, it could be in Saudi Arabia, it could be in southern Spain, and these 5 megatons will be then put into a hydrogen purchase agreement, HPA, which will fix the price. At the same time, this is still too high. The price is still too high compared with coal. And that should be dealt with by a carbon contract for difference, whereby the costs are levelized to the level which a company would pay for coal via state aid. So this mechanism, which gives you on the supply side an instrument to have a plannable upscale of market with long-term purchase contracts, and on the demand side with a contract for difference, is something where we would like to include, of course, the Japanese partners at the earliest possibility. The next slide is my final slide. We are aware that Japan has less access to renewable energy because of sun and wind issues. However, there is one European project which is called Ocean Energy that uses the kite technology that you see here to move a boat and to produce hydrogen on board. So this is wind energy that is used for the production of renewable hydrogen. And as Japan has access to oceans and sea, this is a technology that, without putting offshore wind turbines into the sea, which is also costful, this for a nation like Japan, which is a shipping nation, might be a way out. It's a project that just started, and we are happy also to talk about this jointly. Thanks very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yorgo, and thank you very much for introducing a lot of ongoing projects on industrial level, which the kind of proof of a good bilateral relationship between European Union and Japan. And also, I also appreciate your ideas on the auctioning of hydrogen or new way of producing hydrogen. Actually, we are in a process to develop offshore wind resources also, which obviously will be a future option as a source of hydrogen. Thank you very much. So I'd like to move on to the last speaker, Ms. Joanna Searing, Senior Project Manager of ECOS Consult. Thank you. Mrs. Joanna, the floor is yours.
Yes, Shirai-san, thank you very much for introducing, and thank you very much for having me here in this floor. Well, some of you might ask, who is ECOS? You might wonder. So we are a German-Japanese project development and consulting company, and we focus on energy, environmental, and sustainability issues. If you go to the next slide, please. Yeah, that is what we are. And next slide, because I need to be very brief here. Here are just two examples of what we do. So among others, we provide platforms for information exchange on technology and policies. And we initiate and foster industry cooperation, including demonstration projects. And here are just two examples of our activities. We are part of the Secretariat of the German-Japanese Energy Transition Council, the GJETC. This is a bilateral scientific advisory council established in 2016, which is funded both by the German and the Japanese government. And the council has already published numerous studies and papers on key issues of energy transition in both countries, including hydrogen, of course. And currently, actually, bottleneck technologies are being analyzed. And this is meant as an impulse also for setting up joint demonstration projects in the future. And green hydrogen is also one of the issues here. And the other example is the EEDF, the German-Japanese Environment and Energy Dialogue Forum, which we organized since 2007, alternating in Germany and Japan. This is also financed by the German and Japanese government, and this forum has become a renowned platform for information exchange of experts from industry, academia, and politics on kind of hot topics in the field of energy and environment. And it has been also been a starting point for bilateral projects. So next slide, please. Here are the 3 key questions I would like to address in this short input. And this is meant to be as a kind of wrap up of what has been presented and kind of bridge to the final discussion. So I will ask, or kind of wrap up, what technologies are needed for large scale green hydrogen production and deployment. What are key criteria issues for joint international projects? And I will introduce some opportunities, ideas also for EU-Japan green hydrogen projects. So next slide, please. I'd like to make one remark here. There are, of course, differences between the hydrogen strategy in Germany and in the EU. A rather clear focus is set on green hydrogen, while Japan's strategy is to upscale the demand side and to establish large-scale hydrogen import structures, and almost no matter the color of the hydrogen. So blue hydrogen is also fine here, but Japan has also resources for domestic green hydrogen production. And on the other side, also the EU will depend on hydrogen imports in the future, as we have heard before. There are also green hydrogen hubs being planned, as Maria just explained before. So that is why I will address both aspects in the following. So next slide, please. So what technologies do we need for large-scale hydrogen production? One common issue which has been mentioned before is the cost, of course, especially for hydrogen production by electrolysis. So the target, which we heard before from the Japanese side, is $3 per kilogram by 2030. Now we have to keep in mind that roughly 60% of the hydrogen production costs are well set by the electricity costs or determined by the electricity costs. So that means a continued deployment of lower cost renewable generation from offshore wind, from PV, will lead to a reduction in power prices and then also lead to a reduction for hydrogen production. But of course, as we heard before, there's also potential for the reduction of CAPEX and OPEX of different types of electrolyzers, be it alkaline, solid oxide, or PEM, as explained before by Ohira-san. So you can, for example, change the catalyst materials, improve the exchange membranes, increase the efficiency, or optimize the whole system to reduce the costs. And there are also alternative technologies which might be worthwhile to further be developed jointly. For example, photocatalytic water electrolyzers, which Maria also mentioned before in her project. So this is rather fundamental and pre-competitive research, as Bart Biebuyck mentioned before, which might be also well suiting for German or EU-Japan hydrogen projects. So tasks for joint projects could be the demonstration and upscaling of various electrolysis technologies and a comparison from a cost and CO2 emission point of view. So next, please. Next issue is hydrogen storage and transport, domestically and overseas. So when distributing hydrogen to the end user, there are several ways to go. You all know it: liquefy it, you can compress it, blend it with natural gas, transform it into synthetic fuels such as methanol or ammonia, or provide pure hydrogen. And there are still many questions that have to be tackled. So how can the appliances on the user side can be made technically ready for hydrogen? What are the technical limits of blending hydrogen in the gas infrastructure? Or do we need, or is it better to have a dedicated pure hydrogen pipeline grid? Then hydrogen fueling trucks are implemented or used in Japan in many projects. So the question is this also, for example, cost efficient way in Europe? So the answers might differ depending on the framework conditions in each country. And besides the technical challenges, of course, there's the question of business models. So we need concepts and models for economically viable connections between domestic green hydrogen production and transport infrastructure and the domestic uses. And then when we come to import issues from a long distance, as mentioned before, also in the EU, the import of green hydrogen will be a bigger issue in the future. So the question is, how can hydrogen be transported over long distances in a cost-efficient way? And I think Japan has a lot of competence in this field. So next slide, please. So I would like to raise some, or to explain some important criteria from our point of view for international hydrogen projects. So firstly, the projects should address the key issues, which I just explained, the key technologies, the bottleneck technologies, which are relevant for both sides involved, and which are also relevant for the development of hydrogen infrastructures in both sides involved and also worldwide. And very important, the competences of both sides should be complementary, should match. So this is always a key for international projects to bring it to a success. And finally, money is of course needed for demonstration projects. So what we need is three things: complementarity of interests, complementarity of technologies, and complementarity of funding schemes. So next slide, please. So when we talk about complementarity, this is just a trial to map the competences in the EU and in Japan. There are of course overlappings. Germany and Japan both hold the strongest global position in terms of market share of electrolyzers. I think Japan is kind of advanced in developing the demand side, like mobility, and also for maritime long distance transports. And on the other side, I see a lot of expertise and projects in domestic green hydrogen infrastructures and economies, and kind of overall concepts for regional green hydrogen supply and use. So next slide, please. So this is the last part of my short presentation. I would like to draw your attention to the North Sea area. There are numerous projects going on here. We have heard about the Jules project, which is a bit to the well, on the left side of the Netherlands, the coastal line. We have heard about the Heaven projects, which is part of the Hydrogen Valley. Maria mentioned the GetH2 project, which is on the German side of the border, which is also a very interesting project to connect hydrogen production from renewable energies with use in the industry by a dedicated pure hydrogen pipeline. And we have more projects here on the German North Sea coast, like Westküste 100 on the right upper side. And the plan here is to map and scale a regional hydrogen economy on an industrial scale, including 100 megawatt electrolyzers. And as we heard before, in Hamburg, I think Jorgo Makakis mentioned this, in Hamburg or close to Hamburg, a 100 megawatt electrolyzer is planned to be built very soon. And then we have smaller projects like the eFarm project up here, which is also part of Hydrogen Valley projects. And just only in the 5 northern German federal states, the so-called High Five, it is planned to install 500 megawatt capacity of electrolysis until 2025 and 5 gigawatt capacity by 2030. So this makes this region quite interesting. What makes this especially interesting is the wind power capacity or wind power potential. There's already installed a lot of wind power onshore, And there are two big offshore wind power farms, which I have kind of marked here in blue color. And next slide, please. This is the German North Sea wind power development plan. And as you can see here, the green wind power plants are already installed, 6.4 gigawatts. And there's more planned, 20 gigawatts until 2030. And the red circle marks an area which is dedicated only for, is intended for practical testing and implementation of innovative concepts for energy generation, which is not connected to the grid. So, for example, hydrogen production directly at the offshore wind turbine platform. So I think this is very interesting also for joint projects here. Next slide, please. I turn to Japan. We've heard about a lot of interesting ongoing projects in Japan, like Fukushima, Yamanashi, have we mentioned before. There are more projects going on in Japan where hydrogen is produced with PV, wind power, or biomass, and supplied via trucks, cradles, or pipelines, and which is used in buildings, industrial mobility. But besides Fukushima, I'd say most of them are of rather small scale. Some of them have the potential for scaling up, for example, in Fukushima, with more mega solar and more offshore wind integrated. And also up there in Hokkaido and in Tohoku, Akita, for example, there is wind power potential. So let me go to the next slide. Yeah, some of you may have attended the offshore wind power workshop a few weeks ago. So when you look at the offshore wind power potentials and the expansion targets of METI, you see that there's big potential in Hokkaido and in Tohoku. But the problem is the large cities and metropolitan areas are rather far away. And only down there in the southwest, in the northern part of Kyushu, both the wind power potential and a metropolitan and industrial area come together. So this is actually the fourth strongest economic region in Japan down here. And METI plans to install 7.75 gigawatt until 2030 here, which is the second largest expansion target after Hokkaido. So, but there's no green hydrogen production there in Kitakyushu yet. But there's one interesting hydrogen production, not green, but hydrogen. So from our next slide, please. Sorry. Yes, the Kitakyushu Hydrogen Town project. So hydrogen as a byproduct comes here from a Nippon Steelworks plant on the left side and is piped via a hydrogen pipeline, the yellow line, over 1.2 kilometers to well, for use in fuel cell units, fuel cell CHP units in houses. This is being, well, kind of revived now in connection with the Olympic Games. The next slide. And just 16 kilometers to the west, there's the first large-scale offshore wind farm project in Japan, the Hibiki-Nada offshore wind farm, which is supported by NEDO. And the plan is to start installing bottom-fixed offshore wind power plants with a capacity of 220 megawatts and 6 megawatts of floating offshore wind power from next year on. So next slide, please. This is my last slide. So if we think these things together, we have here the hydrogen town, a hydrogen project. We have the Hibiki-Nada port offshore wind project. There's already PV also installed and onshore wind. So a lot of potential for green power. And we have two metropolitan areas, Fukuoka City, Kitakyushu City, which are also rather industrialized, and there is huge and high potential for hydrogen use in mobility, in buildings and industry. And as has been mentioned before, there's also scientific expertise. We have the Kyushu University with the Hydrogenius department. And as we heard before, also researchers from Europe are working there. So the Kitakyushu and Fukuoka metropolitan area has, in my view, excellent preconditions for realizing a large-scale green hydrogen demonstration project along the entire value chain. And last slide. Now, I hope I was able to give some impulses and ideas for the further discussion. And I'd like to end with this words of IEA Chairman Fatih Birol: the race to net zero is not between countries, but against time. And actually, my race against time ends here. Thank you very much. Thank
you very, very much, Mr. Joanna. And I'm very much impressed by the by your closer look at the Japanese project in details. Very much impressed. And also, I'd like to thank your presentation with regards to the criteria to craft international collaboration projects. And the way I see it is that I think it's very important to think about the complementarity in variety of aspects. For example, for complementarity in value creation to both sides, complementarity of funding, complementarity of technologies. Thank you very much. So now I'd like to move on to the panel discussion on the to think about possible projects in the hydrogen space between European Union and Japan. Of course, this is not something we need to agree on today. And I think the intention here is to stimulate the future discussion on a variety of levels, including government levels and also on private sector levels, to think about future collaboration. And as Mr. Yorgo indicated, there are a lot of private sector levels cooperation ongoing already. And now I'd like to discuss how we can promote further or encourage private sectors in both sides to craft such cooperations. Also, we would like to discuss what kind of areas would be the future areas for cooperation. The areas for cooperation doesn't necessarily mean technology areas. We can think about the areas for policy coordination, for example, as indicated by Mr. Ohira with regards to the next generation refueling protocol for heavy-duty trucks, fuel-powered heavy-duty trucks. Also, we may think about the harmonization of regulatory framework for example, for hydrogen refueling station. But in any case, I'd like to center our discussion on the slides provided by Mr. Bart with regards to the possible areas for cooperation. So the Secretariat, can you show the last slides of Mr. Bart on the cooperation area? Yes, yes. Yes, thank you very much. So, of course, this is not by any means exhaustive list of areas for cooperation, but I'd like to start the discussion based on that. So, I'd like to turn the floor to the speakers. And now in this session, the speakers from the first session also are joining. So I'd like to also turn the floor to them. But first of all, I'd like to turn the floor to Mr. Bart. And I'd like to hear your comments on how we can promote further the cooperation between European Union and Japan. Mr. Bart, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I believe, especially in the research area, because that's where my specialty is that in the R&I area, we could probably when we launch the calls, align on the call on the topics that we want to cooperate. This is somehow already something we do with the US. So probably something similar. So for example, what I do before we start on the making the topics publicly, we ask, for example, DOE, which are the topics that you would like to work with us, which are interesting for your country, you see, and then we pick up a few of them. And then when we launched the call officially in the public domain, we said that these and these topics, 2-3 topics, are also in interest of the US companies. And we could do something similar with Japan, because that will stimulate also Japanese companies to really look to cooperate with European companies, especially if it's just only like a kind of acknowledgement from Japanese government, like, look, this is also interesting for Japan. So this is a proposal which has been proven working well, and why not do it is also in Japan. Then, okay, we can go in more depth, but maybe to make it a bit more officially, I was thinking between the two funding agencies, I mean, like NATO or FCSU, maybe there we could make a kind of agreement together on how we could promote more R&I together. We could have joint info days, for example, or workshops together on seeing and exploring better where we can work together. So a lot of opportunities exist, as you said.
Thank you very much. Yes, I quite agree with you in a sense that given the lot of cooperation already happening, we really need to have a kind of official framework to promote such a cooperation in the future. And in that sense, I think NATO is hosting regularly the event among DOE and FCHJU and Japan to stimulate the discussion on the trilateral level. But Mr. Ohira, can you elaborate more on that? And also, can I have a comment on the possible way of enhancing cooperation between the two entities?
Yes, thank you very much, Shirai-san. I would totally agree with about Matsu-san to promote the collaborative activity between EU and Japan, sometimes the United States. And unfortunately, I cannot show you all of our projects today. And we have also many lot of R&D programs. So our first, I suppose the first action to show our all the R&D activity and share the information with you, and identifying the typical area to be collaborated. And again, our role is to develop the kind of opportunity people can together to promote in to collaborate the program. To say yes, from the basic research and further research, sometimes regulation code understand that.
Thank you very much. And I think another layer of cooperation is the cooperation among private sectors. I think we had, I think NATO kindly hosted a good platform to stimulate the discussion on the cooperation among US, European Commission, and Japan. But I think they are mainly on the policy or a standardization level, and not about cooperation on the private sector level. And on that point, I'd like to turn the floor to Mr. Yorgo. Especially, he's well informed about a lot of private sector level cooperation happening in European areas. So can I have your comment on the way forward? Thank you very much.
Yes, very much. We appreciate what is done on the level of Mr. Bart and Mr. Ohira, NATO FCHU. That's a very, very important basis. We are now dealing also with scale, with going to industrial scale. I can take one example. So the demand for Mirai as a car in Europe is much higher than the production can be. So congratulations to this wonderful designed but also wonderful functioning car, which is at the moment really crashing all the attraction all over Europe. And here we can see that we need to go to scale now. We need to understand where scale happens. I mentioned this auction system. We are developing this, of course, together with the policy partners. And we have what Tudor Constantinescu in the previous panel said, this European Clean Hydrogen Alliance, which is like the Battery Alliance, but it has 3 times as much members. So it has a lot of members because it encompasses all the parts of the value chain, from hydrogen production to the hydrogen use, dissemination via pipelines and via vessels, and I'll come back to that, but also to the use in mobility, in energy, in buildings, and in industry. Now, Japanese partners are, of course, welcome to be integrated into the flagship projects, the large-scale integrated flagship project that we are doing there. We are talking about a kick-off phase from now to 25. That's a phase where, yeah, a lot of coordination is needed, engineering, project engineering, financial engineering is needed. But there's one dimension after 25 when market really will start that needs to be taken into account. We have heard it already. Europe will be a net importer. And in order to do the imports, there will be pipelines from Northern Africa one day, but we need vessels. And here, I would say Japan is in a leading role. And that's one of the most important issues to develop together, possibly simply to purchase the vessels that are developed in Japan, but to understand that there's a huge potential in shipping hydrogen around the globe. And here we need, I say this because it's an urgent need. We see already the need of clean hydrogen in Europe. So we would urge all partners to concentrate a little bit on the transport of hydrogen on a global scale. Japan definitely leading here. And one aspect, I just say the buzzword, because Bart already mentioned certify. It's the guarantee of origin system. There we could cooperate pretty much. The private partners need a clear, transparent certification scheme with a clear indication of the carbon footprint of the hydrogen as a basis for hydrogen to be traded. This is a prerequisite that we really need to take care of, and this should not be done in isolation. It needs to be done together, and Japan, of course, is one of the global major partners here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Yorgo. Yes, I understand that Clean Hydrogen Alliance established in Europe is a good initiative to promote cooperation or to establish a craft large-scale project in European region. But also, I'd like to mention that Japan Hydrogen Association was established also in a similar move to think about possible large-scale project in Japan, also to collect the voices from industrial perspective with regards to the future policy framework to facilitate the deployment of hydrogen technology. So there could be a room for coordination among such two industrial body to promote the private sector level cooperation. Thank you very much. Also, I'd like to thank your comment on the Japan's efforts to establish international hydrogen supply chain. Yes, I understand that both sides, both Japan and European Union is one to publicly declare the need to import hydrogen. And also, as I presented, we are having a demonstration project. And recently, we made another announcement to move on to the next phase of the hydrogen supply chain project, in which we will spend $2.7 billion in the next 10 years to scale up the maritime transport of hydrogen. So also, the collaboration in this area is, in addition to the clean guarantee of origin issue discussed in the IPHE, is also potential areas for cooperation. But maybe this is the topics in the future workshop, which we plan to have this kind of workshop focusing on the international hydrogen supply chain in future. Well, thank you very much. So there are a lot of discussion on the cooperation, but I'd like to turn the floor to Mrs. Joanna, which showed the interesting criteria to think about the actual cooperation. And some might say that private sector cooperation is kind of difficult to promote, as the government cannot force the private sector to do something or to do anything. And also there's an IP issue related. So, but Mrs. Joanna, can I have your comment on how we can facilitate the collaboration on the private sector level, or do you have any comment on in general how we can collaborate on the policy level or on private sector level in the hydrogen space?
Yeah, thank you very much for turning again to me. I think facilitating is the keyword, actually. So I think both ways are important, kind of top down and bottom up. So top down would be just as I think Jorgo explained. So two funding institutions or organizations join forces and collaborate and develop a call for a joint project, a specified joint project, which meets both interests, and then calls to the public or calls to the private industry to get involved in that and to apply for that. So that would be the top-down version, and the bottom-up version could be to what we do often is to provide platforms for information exchange on ongoing projects, on technological developments, kind of, for example, innovation roundtables or workshops, and bring the private industries together, select them before according to their interests and to the matching and complementarity of the technologies, and bring them together and let them kind of develop ideas for joint projects. So I think both approaches are applicable.
Thank you very much for your good comments. And given the limited time, I'd like to turn the floor to Japanese speakers. I think I'd like to turn the floor to Mr. Isobe, if I may, given the experiences in joining the project in Europe, based on your experience, do you have any idea on how we can facilitate the cooperation in the hydrogen space? So Isobe-san, floor is yours.
Mr. Isobe, please.
I think, or I think the screen is frozen now. So Isobe-san, can I have a comment from you?
Excuse me. Sorry, my network connection was not stable, so I didn't hear your question. So since you have been involved in European projects, I thought maybe based on your experiences, maybe you have a comment to facilitate the cooperation between Japan and EU. Thank you. I'm Isabe from Asahi Kasei. I have two things to say. First of all, as was already mentioned, the upstream to downstream, including supply chain, they have to establish the firm supply chain up to the users beside technical development. And that's where we need cooperation. Another thing is, as was also mentioned, for us, we are trying to establish electrolyzing systems in Europe. And EPC design, purchase, construction, all of these areas that require local partners.
Thank you very much for your comment regarding the challenges to promote the international.
Excuse me, sorry, my network was not stable. Did you hear my comment? Yes, we did. Thank you.
So also, I'd like to turn the floor to Mrs. Maria Hein, hydrogen coordinator of Enagas, with regards to the way forward for the future cooperation on both sides.
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity. So as my colleagues mentioned before, I think that cooperation between countries would be key in order to develop and accelerate the development of the hydrogen ecosystems. As I mentioned before, I think that we are aligned because hydrogen it hasn't been developing with a great speed in Japan. And from our point of view, we think that we can establish cooperations because I think that Spain could play a key role in the hydrogen production at low cost. And we can, by ship and by other methods and ways and manners, try to see how we can collaborate in that sense. We are talking with some Japanese companies in order to develop some projects related with green hydrogen production. We are very interested in large scale projects. So we have a lot of experience with the development of energy infrastructures and with the green hydrogen production infrastructure, and also how we can inject this hydrogen into the existing natural gas networks. So I think that we can establish and we can go further in conversations in order to establish a framework between companies. We are also very active in the Spanish Hydrogen Association and in the Spanish Hydrogen Platform, which is more technological forum. And we are in really close contact with the Spanish government in order to help them to establish the pathways to develop this hydrogen economy. So if you need, of course, any help in contacting with our Spanish government to explore opportunities to collaboration, please let us know that we will be more than happy to have telcos or to have meetings in order to accelerate the process. So thank you so much for the opportunity and congrats for the event.
Thank you very much for your comments. Now time is marching, and unfortunately, I have to close the session. But now I have to. So sorry, we are running out of time, so I'd like to close the session here. I wish I could continue our discussion, but at least I felt a very positive input and response towards the future cooperation between European Union and Japan. Thank you very much. Now, finally, I'd like to turn the floor to Tudor for your wrap-up comment. Mr. Tudor, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Toshi. Very pleased also to see how this seminar went today, and very happy we finally succeeded to have it. I think it was really worthwhile. I would like to thank all the speakers, all the participants, and it was a very good interest. Let me say just a few words. So it's clear that we come from two different parts. So you mainly from seeing hydrogen as an important energy carrier and helping us to integrate large share of renewables. And Japan, from the issue of security of supply and seeing in hydrogen an alternative fuel. Now, with the carbon neutrality objective for 2050, we can bring these things together and really work on the synergies. This is a very good opportunity, and the 2050 objective of carbon neutrality brings together the values, the different parts of the value chains. Now, this seminar is in a row, so it's not, we'll have other 2 seminars. And let me mention that we still think of having even a memorandum of cooperation between EU and Japan on hydrogen, and then we'll touch on the aspects of research, but we also need to touch on all the other aspects, from international trade to aspects of certification, which proves to be so important in developing really global markets and in taking advantage and further developing cooperation and industrial cooperation also between EU and Japan on a base of reciprocity as well. Now, I would like to say that EU and Japan have already concluded a EU-Japan Green Alliance on this issue of reinforced cooperation in sectors important for the energy transition, and we'll also have the energy dialogue soon. All these things are very important, and we can build on each other's strengths, like, for example, in these integrated projects, which are indeed so important for the models to combine, for example, offshore wind and hydrogen production. This is really something we can cooperate together, and to make sure that by exchanging experiences, but also building up on the strengths of each other in terms of hydrogen ecosystem and in industry, linking to transport, to energy storage, to production, EU-Japan could really exchange and promote development of hydrogen valley models and make it successful. So I would like to say also that we would welcome you in this sports coalition, and looking forward to cooperate also on this, because it'd be important to have maybe even some twinning of EU and Japanese sports, and in this way to move globally, and in the context of IPAG and in the context of Clean Energy Ministerial as well. So looking forward to cooperate in all these fields. Finally, would like to mention that we'll have maybe a more dedicated seminar also to the issue of certification and trade. Also, we'll have on the aspects related to end-use applications. But as we see, hydrogen is really a bridge in the energy system. And when we start speaking about it, we have to take this integrated approach from production to transport, storage, and end use. And again, thank you very much, and looking forward to the next workshops. And I hope everybody enjoyed. And I'd like to thank again to all speakers, of course, from Europe, Yorgo Bart and the others, but also to the Japanese ones for contributing to this event. And thank you, Toshi, for finally succeeding together to put this element, this event in place. And of course, thank you to the EU-Japanese Center and to Stefan and all the team who helped us in having this widely attended seminar today.
Thank you very much. I have nothing to add. And also I'd like to thank Secretariat of this event, which is Europe-Japan Cooperation Center. Also, I'd like to thank all the speakers or listeners to this event. And I hope this event will pave the way for a future discussion on many different levels, both on government, private sectors, universities, or other institutions to think about the bilateral cooperation. Thank you very much. I'd like to turn the floor to the Secretariat. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Toshi. This is now the end of this event. I'd like to thank again all our speakers, Jus, Pietruide, Maria, Daisuke, Eiji, Bart, Yorgo, and Joanna, and our moderators, Tudor and Toshi, and our interpreters, Tomoda-san and Kihara-san. The recording and the presentations will be available on our website within a few days. You will receive an email. This event was carbon neutral. The CO2 emissions that we generated by the live streaming have been offset to support a wind energy project in India. This event was organized with the financial support of the European Union as part of a one-year cycle of events on EU-Japan cooperation for decarbonization. Our next event will be announced very soon on our website, so please stay tuned. And well, thank you very much for having been so many to attend today's workshop. We picked at 650 people. We hope to see you again at our next event. Thank you and goodbye.